oh God. You become a little bit, you become amused a little. There's a slight smile. You don't, but sometimes you might even laugh. But there's a little bit of a smile, because you know it's not ultimately real. What they believe to be so important is ultimately not that real. It's a temporary thing. It's relatively real, not ultimately real. In other words, everything is a little bit like a dream. For example, what happened to you yesterday? Where is it now? A little bit like a dream. Whatever was important then, it's gone. Even breakfast this morning. Okay, did I have breakfast or was it a dream? Not that much difference. Or you come to the end of your life and suddenly you think back all those years. That was a long dream. Was it a nightmare? And you become kind-hearted as a grandmother. Nice image, the grandmother who's already been through everything. It's a little bit like the big-bellied Buddha that you see, that is influenced, a Taoist-influenced Buddha, the Chinese big-bellied Buddha. He sits there. People who think they have lots of problems in their lives, I recommend that they should get a big-bellied Buddha and look at it quite often when they think they have problems. And because the Buddha he's actually laughing. He's had a huge belly and he always goes, oh! It's not serious. It implies that he is connected with something deeper. He doesn't take the world that seriously. And so his influence is beneficial. It's only people who take the world not that seriously, they can actually be of benefit to the world and improve the world. But if you think that the world is absolutely serious, you're not going to improve it. You can just contribute to the madness. You will be fighting one or somebody or some organization or some group of people. It's serious. That little bit of detachment, you become the Buddha, the big-bellied Buddha or the grandmother. And dignified as a king with a certain dignity or integrity to who you are. The same dignity and integrity that each animal has, that many humans have lost. One with itself. I feel always when I look at a dog or a cat or a bird, whatever it is one with itself, with who it is. It has enormous dignity. And then sometimes you can see the contrast if you look at a particularly silly human being. And sometimes silly human beings have a dog that's very dignified. And the only times when they get out of their silliness is when they pet their dog. For a moment, they can truly be themselves. For a moment. With all other people, they're playing some kind of silly roles, not knowing that they're playing roles. And then they come in. For a moment, their dog gives them the ability to relax for a moment and be who they are without pretending. And that's why they don't know that. That's why they love their dog or their cat so much. Because they can be themselves. They find themselves through that. That's the integrity of the animal, the dignity of the animal. But it's in you also. This is a nice one about people who are in control of something, of an organization or a country or whatever, how to rule a country or an organization. When the master governs, the people are hardly aware that he exists. Next best is a leader who is loved. Next, one who is feared. the worst is one who is despised. If you don't trust the people, you make them untrustworthy. The master doesn't talk, he acts. When his work is done, the people say, "Amazing, we did it all by ourselves." So the greatest ruler is you are not even aware that he or she is there. Hardly aware that he or she is there, does not interfere. Never says, "Look at me, I did that." Identifying with their actions and taking credit for what they did. "Look, I did that." Or arguing with somebody, "You didn't do it, I did that." That same thing can exist. This talks about having gone beyond ego and beyond mind and identification with action. You also find this phenomenon in some very simple people who haven't developed an ego yet. They sometimes do wonderful things, but there's no entity that says, "Look, I did that," or that feels, "I did that." Beautifully expressed in the film Forrest Gump, where the hero or the anti-hero does not have an ego, he is below ego. He helps many people and many good things come into his life, but he has no sense of a separate self. He lives in the right way, not what this describes, because this describes of going beyond ego. But he hasn't arrived at ego yet, so still lives in the sense of oneness. And if you live in the sense of oneness, the universe to a large extent becomes helpful. Helpful things come into your life because you are no longer separating yourself from life. That begins with being in a state of oneness with the present moment, accepting the moment as it is. That's really all you need to do. Then you're in a state of oneness with life, not imposing anything on the present moment, judgments, reactions. And if they are there, accept that they are there. So it's always you can always accept what is, whatever level. Either accept what is externally or accept what is internally. And now here's a very wonderful thing about how your state of consciousness affects the world. That there's a correlation between the collective consciousness of humanity and the state of the planet. And there is a correlation between your state of consciousness and whatever happens to you. Not always apparent immediately, but there is a correlation between what's within you and what happens to you, or what you attract into your life. And furthermore, it's not so much that what happens to you is your fate or your destiny. Your destiny is determined not by what happens to you. That's what people think, that what happens to me determines my life. Your life is determined, your destiny is determined by how you respond to what happens. And what happens next is determined by how you react or respond to what happens now. So something seemingly bad happens, something goes wrong. If your reaction is negative, you attract the next negative thing. If your reaction is a response that says, well, this is how it is, now let's deal with that, the next thing will reflect that state of consciousness. Many people are trapped their whole lives in a stream of same kind of unpleasant things happening continuously to them, because they don't realize at any given moment there's a freedom for them to change their lives by reacting differently to what happens. Your present reaction determines the future, not what happens. Your reaction to what happens determines the next moment. That's how you can change your life, rather than being trapped in bad karma for a very long time. Very easy, but it requires awareness. And here the Tao Te Ching talks about how the collective consciousness affects the planet. In harmony with the Tao, the sky is clear and spacious. The earth is solid and full. All creatures flourish together, content with the way they are, endlessly repeating themselves, endlessly renewed. When man interferes with the Tao, the sky becomes filthy, the earth becomes depleted, the equilibrium crumbles, creatures become extinct. The master views the parts with compassion, because he understands the whole. His constant practice is humility. He doesn't glitter like a jewel, but lets himself be shaped by the Tao, as rugged and common as a stone. Beautiful images when humans collectively live out of touch with the greater consciousness, the Tao, the transcendent, the reality. Whatever they manifest externally reflects that state of disconnectedness. And then the planet around them suffers. It's simply a reflection of a state of consciousness. And so, this eternal principle, he already saw 2,500 years ago. And that also implies that the solution to what is happening to the planet cannot be found exclusively on the external level. Yes, of course we need to change things that we do on the external level, but unless the consciousness, the state of consciousness that is our habitual state changes, even if we remove one evil from somewhere out there, it will be replaced by some other thing that has the same harmful influence on nature and the planet. So the fundamental is the shift in consciousness in humans, in humanity, but not waiting for others to change. Humanity is you. Humanity is I. You are humanity. The shift in consciousness needs to happen in you, and then the planet will be saved. So that is vital. Here we have the two beautiful lines. The master always means the enlightened being, the being in touch with the Tao. Here he happens to use the he pronoun, but he changes continuously in this translation. Chinese doesn't differentiate apparently with the pronoun. Traditionally, it's always he in the old translation of the Tao Te Ching, but in this Stephen Mitchell translation, he shifts continuously from he to she. It happens to be he here, but it doesn't matter. The master views the parts with compassion,